Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the H.G.P 200M Mechaquartz Commando. This watch is available from hgpwatches.com in two versions. On the Tropic rubber strap the price is €269, on the Bezel bracelet the price is €309 respectively. This piece is a heritage reissue of the original H.G.P Commando, produced in 1980, made to modern day specifications. So firstly, let's look at the watch case that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a fabric and leather watch case, which is housed inside this outer cardboard box. On the front of the box you can see this sticker which says "Clean for service, maintain clean." This indicates that this piece has passed quality control inspection. So to clarify, H.G.P watches are assembled in France, the quality control inspection takes place in France, and the regulation of the calibers used in their watches also takes place in France. So it's good to see rigorous quality control included. This is the watch case. As you can see, it's made from fabric, which is cotton weave, and it's rather like denim, and around the edge of it is upholstered with leather, and we also have a leather strap which is embossed with the H.G.P brand logo securing the flap. So one opens it, and inside we have this cut out piece of cardboard which details instructions on how to remove the bracelet and fit the Tropic strap, and using the quick release spring bars, and good to get that included. This also serves a purpose because it goes in between the case back and the bracelet clasp, and it prevents the bracelet and clasp rubbing against the case back, scuffing and scratching it when it's inside the watch case. So watch case is very well made, as you can see, flawless stitching around the perimeter, and nice to see the edge of it is upholstered with leather, and also the strap is leather, and very aesthetically pleasing. Now H.G.P deserve credit here because this is a low tier price point piece at €309 on the Bezel bracelet. Often low tier microbrands use the default option, the less expensive option of a plastic or cardboard watch box, but to get a fabric and leather watch case like this, which is high quality, is excellent at this price point, and they deserve full credit for that. So with regards to the items, one gets this envelope which says NSA strap band code 2. And it contains a Tropic strap. So as I've detailed, this piece, the Commando, is available in two versions, on this Tropic rubber strap, or alternatively on the beads of rice bracelet. So green tone to it, very aesthetically pleasing. It's got a rally pattern to the Tropic strap. Originally the Commando from 1980 did come on Tropic rubber straps like this, but they were standard Tropic straps, they didn't have the rally style holes. This is very aesthetically pleasing. It's got the iconic Tropic pattern to it. You can see on the underside it has the textured grid formation. Fully perforated. Now the benefits of it being fully perforated is it allows for air circulation, also allows for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist, and if you use the watch for seawater diving, which is its intended purpose, it allows for the water to wick away from the wrist through the perforations and the holes in the rally style Tropic strap. So very comfortable, it's very soft and supple, but also very aesthetically pleasing. Does give the piece a vintage aesthetic as per the original 1980 Commando. Let's look at the buckle and tang side. So we have two keepers which slide, they're not fixed, and the underside has the iconic pattern of the Tropic design. Buckle and tang is solid 316L grade stainless steel, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks, and the edges of it have nice mirror polished bevels, so no sharp corners to it. And the underside of it, if you look at the top left hand corner, you can see it's engraved with the NSA emblem. So to clarify, the bracelet and the rubber straps fitted to this piece are not made by H.G.P, they're made by NSA. NSA used to make bracelets in the 1960s for a plethora of watch brands such as Hoya, Doxa and also H.G.P. And then the brand died out. They made watch bracelets in Switzerland from the 1960s to the 1980s. Then the brand died out during the quartz crisis, and then the brand came back to life. So they're now producing bracelets and straps again, and if you look at the buckle you can see it's engraved with the NSA emblem, which is also on the beads of rice bracelet clasp. And to the right we have 316L, which denotes that this is solid 316L grade stainless steel. Now subjectively one could be critical of this. I'd prefer if it were engraved on the exterior with NSA's emblem, or alternatively the H.G.P brand logo, because that would further enhance the piece, but it's good it's signed on the underside with NSA. Now as an alternative to the two pair of keepers, H.G.P also include this one wider keeper because they appreciate some collectors prefer a wider keeper, just a single. Some collectors prefer a pair of double keepers, and this is good. They've included both, so you can choose. They're easy to fit, and I like that they've included both. This is particularly suitable if you have a smaller wrist, because often With the two keepers, you don't actually need the second keeper depending on your wrist size. Sometimes one keeper will suffice, and therefore one single wider keeper is better than just having two, because if you don't need the second one, one does suffice. So quality of the strap is good. Now, to clarify, this is made from NBR. NBR stands for nitrile butadiene rubber. So to put this into perspective, nitrile butadiene rubber is often used in the aeronautical and automotive industries. So why is that? Because NBR rubber, or nitrile butadiene, is chemical resistant, acid resistant and UV light resistant. So it's particularly useful for rubber O-rings, gaskets and seals used in the automotive and aeronautical industry due to its resistance to chemicals, acid and UV light. It's also very suitable as a watch strap material, and it's an alternative to natural rubber. In terms of how durable it is, it's very robust, so it's as robust and durable as natural rubber. In terms of how soft it is, how supple it is stiffer than silicone rubber. So it really sits above FKM floor rubber in terms of durability, but also in terms of hardness. So nitrile butadiene rubber is harder, it's more robust than FKM floor rubber and silicone rubber respectively. The benefits of it is really the durability, and of course it's acid resistant, chemical resistant and UV light resistant, so it's an incredibly tough material. Very similar to natural rubber. It is soft and supple when it's moulded into a perforated Tropic style strap like this, or a rally pattern strap with large holes, because the holes and the perforations increase the flexibility of it. So the negative of NBR, or nitrile butadiene rubber, is it's stiffer than silicone rubber. The positive is it's more durable. You can also see good attention to detail because the NBR strap is thicker at the spring bar end, and it gradually tapers down in thickness from the spring bar end down to the buckle and tang end. So often silicone rubber straps have a tendency to split and crack around the spring bar with daily wear and tear because they're not thicker at the spring bar end, they're straight and parallel across the length. This is thicker at the spring bar end where it needs to be more robust, because it's prone to flexing with daily wear and tear, and then it gradually tapers down in thickness, and this is beneficial because at the buckle and tang end it becomes thinner and therefore more soft and supple. It doesn't require breaking in. So it is stiffer than silicone rubber, it is stiffer than FKM floor rubber, but it's more like natural rubber in terms of durability. Excellent quality, comfortable, and very good to see that included. So one also gets this sticker or adhesive decal, and as you can see it says Les Hommes Grenouille Paris, and Hommes Grenouille Paris is what H.G.P stands for. So as I've detailed, the brand was originally producing watches in the 1970s through to the 1980s, and then the brand died out during the quartz crisis, and then in 2023 the brand came back to life, and they are now assembling watches in France once again. So this is the original brand emblem of Hommes Grenouille Paris. Nice to get that included. We'll also get this fabric keyring tag, and as you can see on the reverse it says G Mon in France, and this denotes that this case used in this piece was originally designed by Georges Monin in the 1970s. The Monin 844 case is a masterpiece. I regard it as one of the greatest dive watch cases ever made. The Georges Monin 844 case was used by a plethora of brands in the 1970s and 1980s. Hoya used it in the Deep Diver, H.G.P used it in the Commando in 1980, and in 1982 Hoya used it in the Deep Diver, and also it was used by CWC for the RN Diver, and it's an iconic case. So on the reverse again we have Hommes Grenouille Paris and the brand emblem, and nice to get this keyring tag included, and nice to get respect paid to Georges Monin, and the case is a genuine Monin 844 case, and I'll show you it's engraved with a mark to denote that. This envelope contains two stainless steel spring bars, and they're standard stainless steel spring bars. So to clarify, the reason why H.G.P include a spare pair of spring bars is because the Beads of Rice bracelet comes with quick release stainless steel spring bars, but however they appreciate some collectors prefer standard stainless steel spring bars rather than quick release spring bars, so they include them. Also, they're a spare pair for the stainless steel spring bars included in the Tropic strap, so it's good to have a spare pair that are specifically correct to fit the Monin 844 case, as you can see. So you've got the choice: quick release spring bars fitted to the piece, or you can exchange them for the quick release ones included. One also gets the warranty card, as you can see, and this is also the certificate of authenticity. It says Hommes Grenouille Paris on it and H.G.P. We've also got the hashtag H.G.P watches. On the reverse it details the model number of the piece, date of purchase and the retailer H.G.P. So you can purchase this piece directly from hgpwatches.com, and there's a direct link to the owner's instruction manual. So rather than printing out an owner's instruction manual in the form of a booklet, they simply have a link to their website, hgp.watch, and you can download the owner's instruction manual with clear, concise diagrams, instructions in English, detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko Caliber VH31B Mechaquartz. The watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty, and I want to give due credit to H.G.P here, because often low-tier microbrands only cover their watches with a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of international warranty at this price point, €309, is excellent, and they deserve full credit for that. So, good presentation to the piece in the fabric watch case, and also good accessories, including with the Tropic rubber strap. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 42mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 47mm, a thickness of 12.1mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The beads of rice bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push NSA branded clasp. So, this uses the Perfection Personified 20-16 taper. I often refer to it in my previous reviews. It's the industry standard for good reason. It's aesthetically pleasing. On a 42mm head of the piece, it is the perfect taper. 20-16 is Perfection Personified. So, as you can see, the bracelet clasp is signed with the NSA emblem. So, the bracelet and the clasp are not made by H.G.P. To clarify, NSA made bracelets in the 1960s in Switzerland through to the 1980s, and then the brand died out, and then they came back to life. NSA are now making bracelets for H.G.P pieces. NSA made bracelets for a plethora of watch brands from the 1960s to the 1980s, including Hoya, Doxa and H.G.P. So it's good to see an NSA bracelet used on this piece, because it does fit, this being a heritage reissue of the original H.G.P Commando from 1980, which came on a Tropic strap, but beads of rice bracelets made by NSA were also used during that period, during the 1980s, by Hoya and also by other brands such as Doxa. So excellent to see it embossed with the NSA emblem. I like the ribs in it, and it's brushed satin finish, very aesthetically pleasing, matte satin finish to it rather than mirror polished, and in the flanks we have 5 micro adjustment holes, which allows for plenty of adjustment in the absence of half links in the beads of rice style bracelet. No sharp edge to the top edge or low edge, and no sharp corners to it, so it's been deburred and chamfered very well. Very aesthetically pleasing 2-button push clasp. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished handset. Now, to clarify, there are some notable differences between the original H.G.P Commando from 1980 and this heritage reissue of it, the H.G.P Diver 200M Mechaquartz Commando. So, the original used a mineral crystal. Now, of course, sapphire crystal is superior because sapphire crystal is harder and more scratch resistant. The other benefit to this version, the heritage reissue, is it has AR coating. The original did not have AR coating. And you can see the benefit. Sapphire crystal is harder and more scratch resistant. Legibility is better because we have AR coating. The original did not have it. There's some other notable differences I want you to be mindful of. The original Commando from 1980 had a solid 316L grade stainless steel bezel with the same gear tooth profile to it. But, however, the bezel insert was made from a different material. The original 1980 Commando had a Bakelite bezel. Bakelite was rather like acrylic. It was very aesthetically pleasing. But, however, the negative of Bakelite as the bezel insert material was that it was soft and therefore being prone to scuffs and scratches as per acrylic. H.G.P have made the correct decision here, and it's a difficult decision to make for brands that are making heritage reissues of vintage 1980s pieces. They could have replicated it and used a ceramic bezel insert, because that would have brought it up to contemporary specification, because of course subjectively one could be critical and say, why doesn't this piece have a ceramic bezel insert? It's 2025, that is industry standard. Needless to say, ceramic is harder and more scratch resistant than the original Bakelite bezel insert, but however that would spoil the aesthetic, because ceramic is glossy rather like enamel, and therefore it wouldn't fit the aesthetic of this being a heritage reissue of the 1980 Commando. Bakelite is now no longer used because it's soft and therefore easy to scuff and scratch. So what they've done is they've compromised. They've used aluminium as the bezel insert material. But to make it look like the original Bakelite bezel aesthetically, what they've done is they've engraved the aluminium bezel insert, the triangle, and the Arabic numerals 50, 40, 30, 20, and 10. So as you can see, it's a countdown bezel as per the original, rather than a dive bezel that increases, for example, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It actually counts down from 50 to 40 to 30 to 20 to 10, rather like a Tudor FXD bezel used by Marine Nationale. So, bezel markings are correct as per the original. The original Bakelite bezel did visually look the same because the triangle and the Arabic numerals were lumed with tritium, and of course tritium was discontinued due to its radioactivity and succeeded with luminova in the 1980s, and then luminova was succeeded by superluminova in the 1990s and the 2000s, which is now the industry standard. But the original H.G.P Commando used the Bakelite bezel, and it had tritium on the triangle and the Arabic numerals. So the tritium had a green tone to it, and of course it contrasted with the white minute ticks as per Rolex 5517 milsub bezel. This one visually does look the same as the original Commando 1980 bezel, because you can see the green tone of the C3 in the triangle and the 50, 40, 30, 20 and 10 Arabic numerals. But however, the minute ticks as per Rolex 5517 milsub bezel insert, they are silver, because the bezel is aluminium. It's black anodized, and you can see the silver contrasts very well with it. So visually it does look very similar to the Bakelite bezel, which had white minute ticks and a green triangle and green Arabic numerals. They've got it correct. This is the perfect balance, and they deserve credit, because it is difficult for a microbrand when they do a heritage reissue to get the balance right between vintage aesthetic and modern day specification. Very easy to go too far and upgrade it, for example, to ceramic bezel insert, and then of course it's contemporary, but then it loses the vintage aesthetic. This is fantastic. It looks like the original Bakelite bezel. I love it. Aluminium bezel insert is very aesthetically pleasing. The silver minute ticks are fantastic, and I like the contrast of the green C3 superluminova, which is like tritium. Now, with regards to the dial, just bear with me, I'll move the hand out of the way because I want you to look at the text specifically. So I'm going to move the hour and minute hand into position so you can see it perfectly. So, to clarify, the original Commando from 1980 had the exact same dial layout, but there was one notable difference. It was quartz powered, but it had a date complication. So, at the 3 o'clock position, it had a date window. It had a white date wheel with black Arabic numerals. So it was quartz powered versus automatic. This is VH31B Mechaquartz powered. So, purist H.G.P collectors will appreciate this because it is true to the original. The original was quartz powered, this is Mechaquartz powered. Had they made this in automatic, of course it wouldn't be true to the original. The difference is that this doesn't have a date complication. You can see we have perfect symmetry on the dial. The dial is symmetrical versus the asymmetrical dial of the original 1980 Commando. Subjectively, purists could be critical of this and say, well, it should be true to the original and have a date complication. They should have made it NH35A powered. I don't think they should have, because although they've deleted the date complication, this is actually truer to the original because it's Mechaquartz, it's not automatic. So, the thing to note is it has the original Commando text logo, the original scuba diver, and also, this is something I really like, the attention to detail, because we have 200 meters professional Mechaquartz. Now, the original Commando from 1980 also had the French spelling of meters rather than the English spelling. This has it. This also has the French spelling of professional rather than the English spelling. So they've got the spelling correct. And of course this is assembled in France, and the original H.G.P Commando from 1980 was made in France. This is true to the original. Purist H.G.P collectors will really appreciate this. The reason why it's so important when you do a heritage reissue of getting things like this correct is because, for example, the Hoya Deep Diver, produced in 1982, had a very similar dial layout, and it used the same iconic Monin 844 case. It had the red Arabic numerals, which are iconic, but also the early versions, and it's now highly collectible as a result because it's now become rare. The Hoya Deep Diver from 1982 also used the French spelling of meters and the French spelling of professional on the dial, rather than the English spelling. Later Hoya divers changed it. They used the English spelling of meters, English spelling of professional. And at that time, the Hoya Deep Diver was produced in France. It wasn't Swiss made as per later Hoya pieces. So this is why it's important. This is something that will appeal to purist H.G.P collectors, and I really like it. Either side of the 6 o'clock index we have H.G.P France, and this denotes that the watch is assembled in France. So to remind you, this piece is assembled in France, the quality control takes place in France, the regulation of the calibers takes place in France. The quality control level of this piece is very high as a result. So I really like the dial. It's true to the original, with the original spelling, original scuba diver, original Commando logo, original red Arabic numerals, and the C3 Super Lume Nova is printed on the indices, not applied. It's perfect. It is the perfect replication of the original H.G.P Commando from 1980. It's stellar. So one thing I like about the printed indices is the quality. Now, 5 to 6 layers of Super Lume Nova is the industry standard. This may come as a surprise to you. This piece does not use 5 to 6 layers on the bezel, the dial and the hands. H.G.P go one better. This has an incredible 7 layers of C3 Super Lume Nova on the bezel inserts, the dial and the hands. And the quality of the application of the 7 layers is the best I have seen, regardless of price point of the piece. So to clarify, this is a low tier piece between €0 and €500 price point at €309. But what we're looking at in terms of dial execution here, in terms of the application of the 7 layers of C3, is high tier level. This is crisp dial execution. So White's minute ticks on the dial are printed to perfection. Commando text logo, scuba diver, printed to perfection. The 3 lines of text are balanced, it's not over branded and cluttered with too much information, just the right amount of information. 200 meters, professional, Mechaquartz, H.G.P France, either side of the 6 o'clock index on the dial. This is an example to other brands of how to get a heritage reissue correct. The dial printing is sharp and crisp, the font isn't too thick and blurry. The red Arabic numerals are exactly the same font and exactly the same colour tone as the original H.G.P Commando from 1980. They're exactly the same as the Hoya Deep Diver from 1982. Perfect red colour tone. And the red Arabic numerals are fantastic. Absolutely beautiful. They contrast very well with the matte black dial. Legibility is good, perfect symmetry. I prefer the absence of the date complication. And of course, as I've said, this is subjective. Some purist H.G.P collectors will prefer the original with a date complication at 3. I think H.G.P have made the correct decision in this heritage reissue by deleting the date complication and using the VH31. So with regards to the bezel, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, aggressive gear tooth profile, matte satin finish to it rather than mirror polished. Again, what we're looking at here is correct decision after correct decision. They could have mirror polished the gear teeth on the bezel, but then it would look too shiny. This would not be a military issued or tool watch aesthetic. If it were mirror polished, it would look far too shiny. The matte satin finishing to it has a beautiful luster. Although the gear tooth profiling is aggressive, it's very grippy and tactile, and what I like about it is there's a large mirror polished chamfer which is very aesthetically pleasing, but also it deletes the sharp tips of the gear teeth. So bezel is correctly proportioned. Visually it looks exactly the same as the original bezel used on the 1980 Commando, and of course it's fitted to the iconic Monin 844 case. With regards to the case, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel. Concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the top, which has a beautiful luster. Large mirror polished bevels, which are an iconic aspect of the Monin 844 case. What you're looking at here, this Monin 844 case, is iconic. In 1970s, Georges Monin created a masterpiece. This is one of the greatest case designs of dive pieces ever made. It's fantastic. And I absolutely love the finishing to it. Beautiful luster to the flanks, as you can see. Nice large undercuts to the flanks. The flanks are not tall, they're not slab-sided, they're low profile. Curvature is perfect for all wrist sizes, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist. Although it is a large case at 42, it does have a relatively compact lug to lug of 47, which may come as a surprise. So even if you have a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist, this will fit. If you have a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist, this will fit. This is why I consider it to be a masterpiece, because Georges Monin created a case which was 42mm, but it fits all wrist sizes to perfection. Large mirror polished bevels are very aesthetically pleasing. They mark the transition between the top of the concentric CNC lathe tool machine top of the case and the longitudinally brushed satin finish flanks. Finishing is high tier level, make no mistake about it. This is a low tier piece, between €0 and €500 at €309. But what we're looking at here in terms of brushed satin finishing, concentric CNC lathe tool machining, mirror polishing, deburring and chamfering, this is high tier level. High tier is €5,000 plus price point. That is the level of case finishing. And this is a genuine George's Monin case. So I'll show you how you tell that. If you look at this lug here, you can see, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. It's engraved with a GM emblem. And this denotes that this is a genuine George's Monin case. Now, often the 844 Monin cases are copied and they're replicated. And for example, CWC are using 844 cases for their RN diver, but they're not original George's Monin cases. The CWC RN diver does not have this engraved emblem in the tip of the lugs, as you can see. H.G.P are using genuine George's Monin cases, and therefore they're allowed to engrave it with the GM emblem, as you can see on the tip of the lug. This is a genuine Monin 844 case. Fantastic. So, shape of the case is iconic. One detail I really like about it is the profiling of the crown guard. So you can see it has the iconic V cutout, and this does an excellent job of protecting the coin edge crown, but aesthetically pleasing. This really is a masterpiece. It's the perfect lug profile. You can see, just look at the crown guards and the lug profile. And the crown guards have this V-shaped cutout, and it allows the crown to be recessed fully into the crown guards. So it does a good job of protecting the crown from impact damage, but also aesthetically, the angular profile just looks fantastic. One could look at this Monin 844 case all day long. It is a masterpiece. So let's look at the bracelet in detail. Beads of rice bracelet. End links articulate freely, don't feel stiff or kink. They feel refined. Don't have excess play, lateral, longitudinal, side to side or up and down play. Fantastic. The end links are solid end links and they're a good tight fit to the head of the Monin 844 case. Beads of rice bracelet on this piece is stellar. I want to give due credit to H.G.P here, because often beads of rice bracelets, as used by Doxa, for example, on the Sub 300T, which I previously reviewed, they have mirror polished centre links, rather like a Jubilee bracelet. This is a mistake, and especially on a military issued or a tool watch aesthetic piece like this Commando, which is a heritage reissue of a 1980 Commando. Had they mirror polished the centre links in the beads of rice bracelet, of course it would look too shiny and glossy, rather like a dress piece, rather like the Doxa Sub 300T. They're brush satin finished. So every facet of this beads of rice bracelet is brush satin finished. We've got no mirror polishing. Centre links, outer links, flanks, underside, brush satin finished. Beautiful lustre to the brush satin finishing. This is some of the best quality brush satin finishing I have seen on a beads of rice bracelet. To clarify, this is a level above the finishing of the Doxa Sub 300T beads of rice bracelet, which I previously reviewed. In terms of finishing, the lustre is finer because the satin finishing is a finer grained finish to it, so it's higher quality, it's finer, it's not rough, it's smooth. The centre section have a nice ribbed profile, so the beads actually have ribs in them and they catch the light, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and it makes a refreshing change from mirror polished beads of rice centre links, because these ribs in the centres of the centre links is just fantastic the way it catches the light. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's a great looking bracelet, and of course, as I've detailed, it has the 20-16 perfection personified taper. So what we're looking at here is stellar finishing. Brush satin finishing is beautiful. No sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks. The bracelet does not pull arm hairs, which is the benefit, and it articulates freely. This is silky smooth. Beautiful articulation, wraps around the wrist very well. Comfort level is enhanced. No stiff links whatsoever. Let's check the other side for continuity. End link articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, and there's a good amount of articulation, so this improves the comfort level and the feel good factor. Doesn't have excess play in any direction, feels refined. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, so flows nicely. It's not sloppy, doesn't rattle, and this side isn't sloppy, doesn't rattle. Has just the right amount of play, just the right amount of articulation to be flexible, to articulate freely, but isn't sloppy. It's excellent. So, as you can see, push pins used. Now, subjectively, one could be critical of this and say, well, at this price point, €309, we should use 1.2mm or 1.6mm screw pins. But, however, one has to appreciate this is a heritage reissue of the original 1980 Commando, and NSA made bracelets in Switzerland from the 1960s to the 1980s. Push pins were the industry standard in the 1960s to the 1980s, when NSA were originally making beads of rice bracelets for a plethora of brands such as Doxa and Hoya and H.G.P. So, this is true to the original. Now, it's subjective. Some collectors would argue it should be updated to modern day specification and use screw pins. Some purist H.G.P collectors and purist NSA collectors will appreciate this is true to the original NSA bracelets, push pins versus screw pins. I would like to see this upgraded to 1.2mm screw pins. I personally prefer screw pins, but however, push pins are acceptable because that was the original standard in the 1960s to the 1980s, and this is a heritage reissue of a 1980 Commando. It's true to the original. Let's look at the clasp. 2 button push triggers are correctly proportioned, deburred and chamfered well. Brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks. I like the embossed NSA emblem, which is the triangle in the circle, and I like the longitudinal ribs, the way they catch the light, very aesthetically pleasing. 2 button push triggers are heavily sprung loaded, they feel reliable and robust. Quality of the finishing inside is stellar. Solid mill 316L grade stainless steel clasp, it's engraved with the NSA emblem and it says steel inox 316L, which denotes it's solid 316L grade stainless steel. Beautiful luster to the longitudinal brushed satin finishing, no sharp edges to the top edge, low edge or flanks. Centre section has been deburred and chamfered, no sharp corners. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Centre hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play, feels nice and tight. Finally, right hand hinge pin, which is actually a spring bar, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Excellent. This is an example to other low tier microbrands of how to get build quality, quality control and finishing correct. Tolerances are all tight friction interference fits. Bracelet isn't sloppy as a result. No sharp edges to it, beautiful luster to it. It feels comfortable because they've deburred and chamfered it very well. And of course, it snaps shut with a nice positive click and deploys with a nice positive action. It's fantastic. This is an excellent NSA clasp on an excellent NSA beads of ice bracelet. Right, so let's test the bezel execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. Now to clarify, originally Monin 844 cases from the 1980s had 60 click unidirectional bezels, and then of course that's now been succeeded by the industry standard 120 clicks. I'm pleased to report that this Monin 844 case, although it's true to the original and it has the original gear tooth profile to the bezel, it's been updated. This has a 120 click unidirectional bezel versus the original 60 click used in the 1980s. I think they've made the correct decision here by updating it. So let's test the execution. Feels smooth, nice loud audible clicks, medium firm resistance. In terms of resistance, it feels similar to a Seiko 5KX. It's got that medium firm resistance, feels good. Doesn't feel too tight, but one has to get a good grip of it. Easy to get purchase, even wearing a glove with one's index finger and thumb because of the aggressive gear tooth profile versus a scalloped bezel or coin edge bezel. Nice loud audible clicks. I like the feeling of it, I like the sound of it. Feels even all the way through the 360 degrees rotation, it doesn't get lighter or heavier. And I like the smoothness of it, it doesn't feel rough or gritty, it feels refined. You can feel and hear the click spring engaging with every single one of the 120 grooves machined into the underside of the solid stainless steel gear tooth bezel. Sounds fantastic, feels fantastic. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever, nice and tight. No back play whatsoever, nice and tight. Finally, let's check the alignments. One more click. Bang on the centre. The fully loomed C3 Superlume Nova triangle perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial and the 60-minute tick on the chapter ring. This is an example to other low-tier microbrands of how to get bezel execution perfected. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play. Feels even all the way through the 360 degrees rotation. Sounds good, feels good. Medium resistance. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. It feels balanced. They've got the balance correct, the refinement correct, quality control. And again, to remind you, this is the benefit of this piece being assembled in France and the quality control taking place in France. This is not a piece which is made in China with a lack of quality control. What you're paying for here is French assembly, French quality control. And the bezel refinement, that really does capture it. That justifies the price point of €309 because you can feel the refinement, you can feel the quality control here. It sounds good, feels good, it's tight, no lateral side-to-side play, even through the 360 degrees, no back play, perfect alignment, bang on the centre. This is the quality control you are paying for with this piece. It's stellar. One of the greatest bezel executions I've experienced in the low tier, between €0 and €500. Let's test the screw down crown execution. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished. Now, mirror polished domed cap is sterile. Normally I'd be critical of a sterile crown at this price point in the low tier, €309. On this occasion I'm not going to be critical, so why is that? The original H.G.P Commando from 1980 also had a sterile crown. It was a characteristic of Monin 844 pieces, such as the Hoya Deep Diver from 1982, the CWC RN Diver in the 1980s, and the H.G.P divers. They had sterile crowns. Monin 844 case pieces had sterile crowns. They were used by a plethora of watch brands: Hoya, Doxa, H.G.P. It's unsigned. Now, H.G.P could have engraved the H.G.P or embossed the H.G.P emblem, but then it wouldn't be true to the original. Purist H.G.P collectors will appreciate this is exactly the same as the crown used on the 1980 Commando. I think they've made the correct decision by keeping it sterile. Proportions are perfection. Look at the V cutouts in the iconic 844 lugs. Masterpiece. The V cutout is fantastic. Proportion of the crown is perfection. Nice domed cap to it, but you can see it doesn't project too far from the V cutout in the crown guards. It's recessed, but easy to get purchased. And this is the reason why I call this a masterpiece, because you can see how far the crown is recessed into the crown guards. It's fully protected from impact damage, which is the purpose of crown guards. But despite the crown being fully recessed into the V cutouts, you can still get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, even wearing a glove. Easy to get a grip of, easy to get purchase on the coin edge crown. It's correctly proportioned. Silky smooth. Perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. The quality control, build quality and tolerances of the threading on this piece are stellar. This is as silky smooth as the Rolex Triplock crown used on my Rolex Submariner date 16610. It's as good as the Rolex Triplock crown used on my Rolex Starbucks 126610LV. That is the level of refinement. It's Rolex Triplock level in terms of smoothness. There are two rubber O-ring gaskets which provide an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters. So, to clarify, one rubber O-ring gasket inside the stainless steel crown, a second rubber O-ring gasket seal inside the crown tube. Two rubber O-ring seals, 200 meters. Silky smooth. Minimal number of turns required to unscrew. Now, the benefits of this being Seiko VH31B Mechaquartz powered versus the automatic version, the NH35A powered, is there is no phantom date setting position, because as I've detailed, the original Commando from 1980 had a date complication, had a date window at 3, it was quartz powered. They've updated this and deleted the date complication, but the benefit of this being VH31 is there is no date complication, therefore there is no phantom date setting position. It's correct. So, pulling it out to the first click is the final click position, and if you look at the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Seiko Caliber VH31B Mechaquartz. Nice light resistance to it because it has 0 joules. Now, to clarify, there are two versions of the VH31. The VH31A and the VH31B. This is the latter. So what's the difference? Well, Seiko produced the VH31A from 2015. That had 2 joules. Then they succeeded the VH31A with the VH31B from 2023 onwards. That has 0 joules. So, to remind you, VH31A has 2 joules, 2015 production. VH31B has 0 joules, 2023 production. This is the latter, it's the VH31B, therefore it has 0 joules. No friction in it whatsoever. Feels smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise. Doesn't feel stiff. Doesn't feel rough or gritty. Feels pleasant to set the time. Minimal back play. When you rotate the coin edge crown, there's an almost immediate response to the pencil minute hand. Feels smooth. I like it. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the second hand begins to tick around the dial at the characteristic 4 ticks per second or 4 beats per second sweep. So this is something I like about the VH31B. The second hand doesn't tick at 1 tick per second as per normal quartz calibers. It has a 4 ticks per second or 4 beats per second smoother tick, which looks more like the smooth sweep of an NH35A automatic. So although it's a Mechaquartz, it does visually look more like a 3 Hz sweep of an NH35A. It's more aesthetically pleasing than 1 tick every second. I like it. It's something I like about the VH31B. So, hacking the movement works well, setting the time works well. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. Perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. This is one of the best screw down crowns I have experienced in the low tier, between €0 and €500. It is stellar. Quality control, build quality, tolerances, machining are refined. If I had to choose one word to describe the screw down crown, it would be refinement. This is stellar. And one has to remind yourself, this is €309 in the low tier, but what you're getting here in terms of refinement, it's not just mid-tier level, €500 to €5,000. This is high-tier level refinement, €5,000 plus. It is as silky smooth as the Rolex triplock crown used on my Submariner dates. That's how smooth it is. There's a perfect mate, a perfect interface between the internal thread and the external thread. The threads pick up. You don't have to keep rotating the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise to get the threads to pick up, to get them to mate. They instantly pick up. And that's the level of refinement I look for in a mid-tier piece between €500 and €5,000 and a high-tier piece from €5,000 plus. It's very unusual to see it on a low-tier piece between 0 and 500 because one has to be realistic, one has to be magnanimous. There will be some production cost-cutting measures in order to maximise profit margin per piece. Sometimes screw-down crowns will rough and gritty. Sometimes the threads don't pick up instantly. You have to keep rotating them clockwise and anti-clockwise to get the pickup. This does not have those negatives. This is the benefit of this piece being assembled in France and the quality control taking place in France. It's higher level. Stellar performance. It's sublime. Right, so I'll give you wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I haven't sized the bracelet and I'm pleased to report that this beads of rice bracelet is very long. I can easily slide 2 fingers beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. This indicates this would fit up to a 9-inch plus wrist size. So to clarify, I'm now on the longest of the 5 out of 5 micro adjustment holes in the flanks. This is at its absolute maximum. There are enough removable links on the 6 o'clock side and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet to size this down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size. So don't have any concerns if you have a smaller 6 to 7-inch wrist. You can remove enough links from the 6 and the 12 to reduce this down to 6 inches and needless to say up to a very large 9-inch plus wrist size. This is particularly beneficial and it's very well thought through because this watch, the intended purpose of this Commando is to be used for sea diving, and of course it's going to fit around a wetsuit. So if you have a large wrist of 8 inches plus and you wear a wetsuit, of course you're going to need a longer bracelet. This has plenty of length, even if you wear a wetsuit, even if you have an 8-inch plus wrist size, plenty of length on the bracelet. So even with my 8-inch wrist, I would remove 5 links, and I previously owned an H.G.P diver, and to fit my 8-inch wrist with the correct sizing method, index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp, I still remove 5 links. The thing that surprised me about this piece is even with all the links in this very long bracelet, it's surprisingly lightweight. It is only 148 grams. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, 150 grams and below is the sweet spot for a 40 or a 41 or 42 millimeter piece. This is 42. I would expect this to be in excess of 150 grams because 42 is a large piece. It does dominate the wrist. It does have wrist presence. But it is still below 148, even though it has a solid beads of rice bracelet and it does have a milled clasp. Now, the milled clasp is lighter than the heavy gauge used on micro adjustment clasp. It's heavy enough, correctly proportioned, nice curvature to it. So even if you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, it's not going to be too long and have too much overhang. It's not too wide and it's not too bulky. It doesn't stick out too proud from the wrist. Curvature is good for a 6 to 7-inch wrist. Curvature is good for a 7 to 8. They've got it correct. Low profile, has a vintage aesthetic to it. Very aesthetically pleasing, but correct size. Now, again, this is the benefit of them using the perfection personified taper that's often referred to, 20 to 16. Because even on a large 42mm, you can see the benefits of 20 to 16. Had they used the other industry standard, 22 to 18, it would have been too thick and added too much meat to the bracelet. And when I reviewed the Doxa Sub 300T, I was critical because they make that mistake. They use a bracelet which has a 20mm lug width, which is correct, but they flare the bracelet. The beads of rice bracelet is wider than the 20mm lug width. They make the mistake. It should taper from 20 to 16 as per this one, perfection personified. The Doxa Sub 300T has a flared bracelet which is wider. It looks more like 22 to 18. Therefore, there's too much meat on the bracelet. This piece feels balanced, and it's a pleasant surprise because it does dominate the wrist at 42mm. Doesn't feel top heavy. The thing I want you to be aware of, this is a very important point. There are 2 versions of the H.G.P Diver 200Ms. I have reviewed a plethora of versions. I've previously reviewed another version of the Commando, which was the automatic. Now, there's a notable difference. This Mechaquartz powered version, which is VH31B, is only 12.1mm thick. It is a very low profile piece. The automatic version, which I previously reviewed, is NH35A powered. That is 13.4. So 12.1mm versus 13.4. You can clearly see the benefits. And it is noticeable. I've reviewed both versions, the automatic and the Mechaquartz version. My advice to you is go for the Mechaquartz version. Go for the VH31 powered version versus the NH35A automatic powered version, because it really is noticeable visually and also the way it feels. The comfort level and the feel good factor of the VH31B powered pieces is better. It feels lower profile. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel, as one would expect. The Monin 844 case is fantastic in terms of curvature of the lugs, curvature of the undercuts to the flanks, but the benefit of the Mechaquartz version is it has a thinner case back, and that reduces the thickness from 13.4 to 12.1. So there's a huge difference in the thickness, 1.3mm, and you can really see the difference. This is 1.3 thinner. So although it's a large piece at 42, it's much flatter. And this is the benefit of the case back being lower profile. It still does have a bubble back profile to the case back as per the automatic, but it's thinner. And 1.3mm reduction in thickness improves the comfort level and the feel good factor. Tips of the lugs have a minimal gap, and the end links in the beads of rice bracelets articulate well, so we don't have a large gap. Nice flat case back, even though it's bubble back profile, so the undercuts to the flanks wrap around the wrist. This is the reason why I say the Monin 844 case is a masterpiece, because just look how snug it fits to my wrist. So comfortable. Although it does weigh 148 grams with a lot of links in the bracelet, it actually feels weightless. This feels invisible on wrist. It feels so comfortable. The feel-good factor is stellar. Comfort level is stellar. So that's the thing I really like about the Monin 844 case. It's the comfort level, the feel-good factor. You have visually the wrist presence of a piece with meat on wrist. You feel like you've got a heavy, solid, robust dive piece. It does have the aesthetic of a military issue piece as per the CWC-RN diver. And of course it does visually look like vintage pieces such as the Hoya Deep Diver from 1982 or the H.G.P Commando original. You've got that 844 Monin wrist presence, but lack of heft, 148 grams. So wrist presence is good, dominates the wrist, looks like a masculine piece, but comfort level is stellar. Beads of rice bracelet doesn't have any sharp edges, doesn't pull arm hairs, articulates freely. When it floats up and down the wrist, doesn't pull arm hairs, doesn't have any sharp edge to the undercuts. It is fantastic. Beautiful luster to it. Doesn't look like a dress piece bracelet such as a Jubilee bracelet or the Doctor Sub 300T beads of rice bracelet with mirror polished centre links, which is too shiny. The matte finish gives it an aggressive, military issued or tool watch aesthetic rather than a dress piece aesthetic of a Jubilee bracelet, or alternatively a beads of rice bracelet used on the Doctor Sub 300T. The ribs in the centre of the beads of rice links refract the lights rather than reflecting it, and they give the bracelet a unique aesthetic. It doesn't look like a Jubilee bracelet, it doesn't look like a beads of rice bracelet. This beads of rice bracelet with the satin finished centre links with the ribs, it just looks fantastic from every angle. 20 to 16 perfection personified taper. It's just a great looking piece. Fantastic. So I really like it. Comfort level is good, feel good factor is good. No negatives whatsoever. It feels very well balanced. It's low profile at 12.1. But to remind you, my advice is go for the Mechaquartz version at 12.1. Do not go for the automatic at 13.4. 1.3mm thinner. You can see the benefit. Let's look at the case back in detail. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back. You can see the centre is engraved with 844. That denotes that it's a Monin 844 case. The circumference of the mirror polished case back is engraved with Etanche Asia 316L 200M Mechaquartz. Just the right amount of information. Engraving is high definition and crisp, but it's not rough, it's not sharp. Centre section is longitudinal brush satin finishing, very fine grained finish. This is a very smooth case back. So circumference is mirror polished, milled slots are deburred and chamfered. Now, this does have a bubble back case back, but it is 1.3mm thinner than the automatic version, which has a deeper bubble back case back, and that's necessary in order to provide adequate clearance for the rotor of the NH35A because it's a thick calibre. But you can see this is the benefit of the VH31B powered version. It is a bubble back case back, but it's far flatter. It's 1.3mm thinner. It still does provide the same 20 ATM or 200 meters of water resistance, but very flat case back. This allows the Monin 844 case to sit closer to the wrist, and definitely I recommend the Mechaquartz VH31 powered version over the NH35A automatic powered version. I have reviewed both. I've reviewed the Commando in NH35A. This is the Commando in VH31B. 12.1 is far better than the 13.4. This is a better fit. The comfort level is better. The feel good factor is better. Now, just look at the finishing to the underside to the iconic 844 Monin case. Nice large bevels on the undercuts to the crown guards. Now, the benefits of this, I just want you to look at the crown guards in detail because this is a masterpiece. Often crown guards, they're not reduced in the angles. So you can see here we have a large undercut. Now, the benefit is the top and the lower edge of the crown, they're always protruding from the crown guards because they've got this angular profile, they're pointed. And the benefit is you can easily get good purchase. When you put your index finger beneath it and your thumb on top of it, you can get a good grip of it, even though it's fully recessed into the V cutout. Often crowns don't have this because what happens is the crown guards are very squared off and block-like rather than being angled and pointed. And this is the point. This large bevel on the underside, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. This large bevel, which makes the crown guards pointed, is beneficial because you can get good purchase on the crown, but the crown doesn't dig into the wrist. So this is a masterpiece. George's Monin really created the perfect case shape. The angular pointed crown guards, the crown is fully protected, it's fully recessed into the V cutout, but the angular pointed profile, the triangular shape of the crown guards, means the crown always protrudes on the top side and the underside. You can always get good purchase on it, even when your hand's wet for sea diving, and even when you're wearing a glove. If you're wearing a wetsuit and rubber gloves, you can still get good purchase on the crown. It's a masterpiece. These are the kind of refined features I really appreciate about the Monin 844 case. The undercuts to the flanks are deburred and chamfered very well, no sharp edges, and the underside to the head of the piece is mirror polished to a flawless standard. As I've detailed, the case finishing on this Monin 844 case is high tier level. So to remind you, low tier is €0 to €500, mid tier is 500 to 5,000, high tier is 5,000 plus. Make no mistake, this Monin 844 case is high tier level. It is 5,000 plus euro price point, mirror polishing, brushed satin finishing, concentric CNC lathe tool machining. No sharp edges on any facet of this case. The tips of the lugs have been deburred and chamfered well. Angular lugs are a masterpiece. Angular profile to the crown guards are a masterpiece. It's the perfect dive case. It's just fantastic. It's mesmerising to look at the finishing. So, let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So, as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So, to remind you, the original Commando from 1980 used tritium, which was radioactive. And then tritium was discontinued due to its radioactivity, and in the 1980s upgraded to Luminova. Then in the 1990s and the 2000s, Luminova was succeeded by Superluminova, which you're all familiar with. This uses C3 Superluminova, which has the same green tone as tritium used in the 1980s, but of course it's not radioactive. The other benefit of C3 Superluminova is it does not patinate, and therefore doesn't develop a patina with time exponentially. It always looks white in daylight and it always looks green in the dark, unlike tritium, which develops a patina and turns peach tone. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, this has not disappointed. This is stellar performance. So, to clarify, the industry standard is 5 to 6 layers of Superluminova, C3 or BGW9. H.G.P go one better. You're not looking at 5 to 6 layers, you are looking at 7 layers of C3 Superluminova on the aluminium bezel inserts, on the printed indices and on the handset. 7 full layers. This is the most number of layers, the greatest application of C3 I have ever seen. I have reviewed over 500 watches on my channel, a plethora of low tier pieces between 0 and 500. I've never seen 7 layers on a bezel insert, 7 layers on the dial, 7 layers on the hands used in the low tier between 0 and 500 euro. H.G.P are the only brand doing it. 7 layers of C3. Stellar performance. Now, subjectively, one could be critical and say, well, they didn't fully lume the minute ticks. As per Rolex 5517 mil-sub, the minute ticks, that's what I'm referring to. Subjectively, one could say it's true to the original. Now, the reason why I say it's true to the original H.G.P Commando from 1980 used a Bakelite bezel, and H.G.P loomed the triangle and the countdown Arabic numerals 50, 40, 30, 20 and 10. They did not loom the white minute ticks with tritium. They only loomed the triangle and the Arabic numerals. So this is true to the original, and purist H.G.P collectors will appreciate it's true to the original Commando from 1980. Again, this is the difficult decision one has to make. Microbrands that do heritage reissues of their original vintage pieces from the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, they have to strike a balance between vintage aesthetic and modern day contemporary specification. This has it right because we've got the upgrade from tritium to C3 superluminova. Vintage aesthetic is there because it's green. It glows green rather like tritium versus the blue tone of BGW9. So they've made the correct decision. Yes, they could have engraved the aluminium bezel insert and fully loomed the minute ticks, but then it wouldn't be true to the original Bakelite bezel because the Bakelite bezel had white minute ticks, but the triangle and the Arabic numerals for the countdown bezel, they were a green tone because they were loomed with tritium. So in daylight this does look visually the same because we've got white minute ticks and we've got green triangle, green countdown Arabic numerals. We don't have the minute ticks loomed. One could argue that it would look better if it were like a Tudor Pelagos FXT with a countdown bezel with fully loomed minute ticks as per the Tudor Pelagos bezel. It really comes down to personal preference. It's divisive. Purist collectors will want it to look like the original Bakelite bezel on the 1980 Commando. Modern day H.G.P collectors will want it to be upgraded to the maximum, the best performance, the modern day standard, which is to fully loom the bezel. I think they've made the correct decision regardless by not using ceramic as the bezel insert material. Bakelite, of course, has now been discontinued. Aluminium bezel inserts and ceramic and sapphire bezel inserts are now the industry standard. They could, of course, use the fully loomed fully loomed sapphire bezel insert as an alternative to Bakelite, but of course that would increase the production cost per piece and therefore reduce the profit margin per piece. It wouldn't be viable to retail this at €309 on the bracelets with a sapphire bezel insert. They'd have to increase the retail. I think they've made the correct decision with an aluminium bezel insert and fully looming the triangle and the countdown Arabic numerals. So 7 layers on the bezel insert, 7 layers on the dial, 7 layers on the handset. The exciter is potent, longevity is good, potency is good, green colour tone match is good. I like green C3, it's one of my personal favourites. I actually prefer C3 in the green tone to BGW9. I really like it. I think the green matches the aesthetic of tritium used in the 1980s. Fantastic performance. Now you can see the benefits of it having perfect symmetry to the dial with the absence of a date complication. The original 1980 Commando had a date window and date complication at 3. This is better because we have the symmetry of the triangle index at 12 and then we have the 9, 6 and 3 rectangle indices. So it does look like a Rolex Submariner dial layout. It's iconic. Exactly the same as the original CWC-RN dial layout and also the Hoya Deep Diver dial layout from 1982. So it's got that true vintage look. Fantastic, stellar performance. Right, so let's discuss the movement used because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So as I've detailed, the Commando is produced in 2 versions. I previously reviewed the black version of the Commando, which was automatic. It was NH35A powered. So to remind you, an important consideration I want you to be mindful of, the difference in thicknesses. So the NH35A version of the Commando is 13.4 thick. The VH31B powered version is thinner, it's 12.1. So 13.4 versus 12.1. Clearly the Mechaquartz version is the one to choose. The VH31B 12.1 is far thinner, 1.3mm thinner than the 13.4 of the NH34A powered version. So VH31B, to remind you, there are 2 versions of the VH31. Seiko produced the VH31A and the VH31B respectively. VH31A has 2 joules, produced from 2015. VH31B has 0 joules, produced from 2023. This uses the latter, so it uses the successor. It uses the VH31B with 0 joules. In terms of build quality, quality control, materials and finishing, there are no discernible differences. The VH31A is the same quality as the VH31B, also has the same accuracy. So this one has 0 joules, has hacking, which works well as I've demonstrated. 2-year battery life is good. Plus or minus 15 seconds per day stated accuracy. Just think about that for a moment. That's not plus or minus 15 seconds per day or per week. Plus or minus 15 seconds per month. Better than plus or minus 1 second per day. I can confirm that this one is running consistently at 0 seconds per day. Perfect accuracy. So it's a very accurate movement. Aesthetically, it's also very aesthetically pleasing, because if you look at the second hand, as I've detailed, the benefits of the VH31B is it has a 4 ticks per second, or 4 beats per second, smoother tick rather than 1 tick every second. So it looks more like an automatic, rather like the 3 Hz sweep of an H35A. So it looks better than 1 tick every second. I really like the smooth 4 ticks per second sweep. No negatives to it whatsoever. Accurate, reliable, well-proven workhorse, Japanese-made caliber. So as I've detailed, the original VH31A was produced from 2015, so at this point it has 10 years of service. The reliability is proven beyond question. Then it was succeeded with the VH31B in 2023, which currently has 3 years of service. Again, reliability is proven beyond question. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse caliber. Correct choice at this price point. Above all else, the benefit of the VH31B is how thin it is. It is much thinner than the NH35A automatic, and as I've detailed, H.G.P have been able to refine this piece. They've reduced the thickness from 13.4 down to only 12.1. So although this is 42mm with the iconic Monin 844 case, it's a large piece. It's got the correct 20mm lug width. It's got the correct 47mm lug to lug measurement, which is only 1mm below the sweet spot of 48. But above all else, this is only 12.1. They've reduced the thickness down to 1.3. So what we're looking at with this Commando is peak H.G.P. This is one of the greatest H.G.P Diver 200Ms they've made. I've reviewed a plethora of Diver 200Ms, the automatic and the Mechaquartz versions, and I can tell you this is one of the very best. It has the iconic Commando dial layout of the 1980, but the thing I really like about it is the bezel, countdown bezel markings are very true to the original Commando from the 1980s, but also the thickness is only 12.1. This is very similar thickness to the original Commando from 1980, and it's really noticeable, the 1.3mm reduction in thickness. So my advice to you is, if you're choosing between the automatic NH35A version and the Mechaquartz VH31B version, opt for the latter. The Mechaquartz is the one to choose. 12.1 enhances the comfort level and the feel-good factor. Accuracy is excellent, 0 seconds per day, 2-year battery life is excellent, hacking works well, it's the correct movement. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, low tier piece. It's available in 2 versions. On the Tropic rubber strap I showed you, the price is €269. On this Beads of Rice bracelet, it's €309 respectively. Yes, I'm going to declare it excellent quality, and yes, I'm going to declare it excellent value. This is unquestionably excellent quality and unquestionably excellent value at €309. One has to remember, this piece is not made in China. This is assembled in France with French quality control and French regulation of the calibers they're using. And the bezel execution fully justifies the price point. The screw down crown execution fully justifies the price point. The high tier level finishing to the iconic Monin 844 case fully justifies the price point. The finishing of the bracelet fully justifies the price point. This is stellar. No negatives to this piece whatsoever. Build quality, quality control, materials, finishing are stellar. €309, this is a heavy hitter. So, I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the H.G.P Diver 200M Mechaquartz Commando. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.